Now, the president right now is also signing executive orders at 3:30. Oh my gosh, it's going to be just total bedlam today. I can't wait. So 9 a.m. light schedule, but that's because the president is in the middle of a phone call right now. And he's talking with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, happening right now. And in fact, the AP should still be live. Yeah, they've got it. They said, here's a live view of the White House as Trump and Putin are set to hold a ceasefire call. And let's see, that's still live here. Yeah, actually a little bit of a smaller crowd. I was watching it earlier. Oh, who's coming in and out? Got some activity. Who's there? It's not Zelensky, is it? Just kidding. All right. You can see this is what we're paying attention to today. Maybe we'll get some progress on Ukraine as well. Fighting for a ceasefire in the first step towards peace. We'll see if they get that going. Yeah, the call started a while ago, right? So it's been going on for some time. Dan Scavino said started at 10 a.m. Eastern. So that's 7 my time. Wow. So it's 2 hours at this moment. So 2 hours still in progress, probably. Let's see what the latest is from Dan. Live right now. Update as of 32 minutes ago. Call still in progress. Whew, so they're getting into it. Maybe they're literally carving out terms. Wild. It's truly wild. Like Joe Biden, did he ever talk to Putin ever at all? One time? Did anybody of any power or substance ever during that entire conflict talk to him? I don't think so. I think it was just, we want war. We got more reaction here from the White House. Principal Deputy Press Secretary works alongside Caroline Leavitt, who is explaining what's happening with this phone call. Here's what the White House said.
President Trump, of course, is set to talk today with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the phone. We know Ukrainian President Zelensky has been warning that Putin has been trying to prolong this war. Are you expecting Putin to play hardball with your boss later today?
President Putin has a respect for President Trump because he understands who he's dealing with. Remember, this is President Trump's second time as president of the United States, in which they had a very good working relationship in which the two men respected each other. There's a reason why President Putin didn't gain anything when President Trump was in the White House the first time. It's because he understood with President Trump behind that resolute desk in the Oval Office, he wasn't going to play the same games as he usually did under President Bush, under President Obama, and under President Biden. There's a reason why Crimea wasn't annexed under President Trump, because President Trump didn't allow that. President Trump talks about it all the time. He gave the Ukrainians, when President Obama gave them pillows and blankets. President Trump means business, and at the end of the day, he wants to score peace, which is exactly what he's probably going to be able to do in a very short period of time.
And I think there is actually truth to that. When we were watching Russia start to amass 100,000 people, we remember that. We were live streaming at the time. We were like, this is really weird. What are they doing? Dumping people on the border. And then they sent Blinken and Lloyd Austin over there. And they put them in this dark room with these weird cameras and 2 little spotlights. And those 2 goons were just like stumbling all over themselves, trying to come up with some tough talk about Putin. And like, we're moving 5,000 troops here for advisory capacity over there. And Putin's like, what? 5,000 what? Okay, thanks. So obviously you're not doing anything, right? And so there was really no force at all, no show of force that maybe would have prevented this in the first place if there was some manliness coming out of the White House, for crying out loud. There was zero. So here is more. Trump was out yesterday at the Kennedy Center, and he was talking down to the media from on high. All right, welcome. And I like how they put the presidential seal right there just for him. I don't know if it was just for him or if that's already there, but this is where it's going to be directed from. We're going to revise all of the broken policies in America. We're going to eliminate the excess bureaucracy, and we're going to reform the Kennedy Center all simultaneously.
We're going to make a lot of changes, including the seats, the decor, pretty much everything. Needs a lot of work.
Mr. President, are you surprised by the reaction that the Vice President got here at the Kennedy Center with the other leaders?
I don't know about that. He's the most popular Vice President we've had in years. He's doing a great job. I don't know anything about it. I figured you'd ask a question.
Mr. President, what are we talking about price-wise? Bring it up to
whatever it is. I think it's such an important part of the fabric of the country and of D.C. So we want to do it right. We'll do it right, and we'll do it once. So you want a little picture like this?
Perfect.
Go ahead. Are you guys ready? Come on. We'll go through.
Take it.
Too, when we're closer to
Take your picture.
Perfect. Thank you, press. Right this way.
We make a lot of change.
Amazing. Take your photos and get out of here. Okay, we've got work to do. Trump at the Kennedy Center, cleaning house. We also have at the Kash Patel coming out saying, hey, I can now confirm that last night, working with Pam Bondi at the DOJ and other interagency partners, the FBI has extradited one of our, quote, 10 most wanted from Mexico. One we believe to be a key senior leader of MS-13 called Francisco Javier Roman Bardales. He was arrested in Mexico and is being transported within the U.S. as we speak, where he will face American justice. This is a major victory for both our law enforcement partners and for a safer America. Now, thank you to our brave personnel for executing the mission, and thank you to Mexico's SSPC and FGE teams for their support of the FBI in this investigation and arrest. And joining Kash is Dan Bongino in the house. Kash also posted this welcoming Dan, saying, let's get to work. And there's Dan, Kash, and fam swearing in and coming aboard. And this is fun. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a good time. Kash Patel welcoming Dan, and we're excited for that. Now, we've also got these JFK files coming out. Here's a very short clip from this fella who was explaining what's going on with those.
The American people will have their hands on these documents, and there will be a story to tell. I won't preview that story, but let me tell you, the American people are truly going to be shocked at what they see. The American people.
All right, we'll see. I have my doubts about that, but I am excited for the documents. Don't want to be a Debbie Downer on them. I hope we come out, we're like, ha, it was J. Edgar Hoover. That's what we thought. But not so sure that we're going to get there. We'll see, of course. Now, J.D. Vance was out this morning, and he was talking about American greatness and how the rest of the world has failed to assist in the preservation of economies and governments that embody American ideals, also known as Western ideals. Here was JD.
Because there were two conceits that our leadership class had when it came to globalization. The first is assuming that we can separate the making of things from the design of things. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things.
So Apple designs the iPhones and the Chinese slave workers make the iPhones, and that's perfectly okay as long as Apple preaches to the rest of us about equity and inclusion and about global warming and climate change and speech and all the garbage that they lecture us about while they're exploiting slave labor in foreign countries. That was their bill of goods that they were selling to us. We don't need to make anything because we're just so much smarter than everybody.
You would open an iPhone box and it would say designed in Cupertino, California. Now, the implication, of course, is that it would be manufactured in Shenzhen or somewhere else. And yeah, some people might lose their jobs in manufacturing, but they could learn to design, or to use a very popular phrase, learn to code. But I think we got it wrong. It turns out that the geographies that do the manufacturing get awfully good at the designing of things. There are network effects, as you all well understand. The firms that design products work with firms that manufacture. They share intellectual property, they share best practices, and they even sometimes share critical employees. Now, we assume that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain, they also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends. Now, that was the first conceit of globalization. I think the second is that cheap labor is fundamentally a crutch, and it's a crutch that inhibits innovation. I might even say that it's a drug that too many American firms got addicted to. Now, if you can make a product more cheaply, it's far too easy to do that rather than to innovate. And whether we were offshoring factories to cheap labor economies or importing cheap labor through our immigration system, cheap labor became the drug of Western economies. And I'd say that if you look in nearly every country from Canada to the UK that imported large amounts of cheap labor, you've seen productivity stagnate. I don't think that's not a total happenstance. I think that the connection is very direct. Now, one of the debates you hear on the minimum wage, for instance, is that increases in the minimum wage force firms to automate. So a higher wage at McDonald's means more kiosks. And whatever your views on the wisdom of the minimum wage, I'm not going to comment on that here. Companies innovating in the absence of cheap labor is a good thing. I think most of you are not worried about getting cheaper and cheaper labor. You're worried about innovating, about building new things, about the old formulation of technology is doing more with less. You guys are all trying to do more with less every single day. And so I'd ask my friends, both on the tech optimist side and on the populist side, not to see the failure of the logic of globalization as a failure of innovation. Indeed, I'd say that globalization's hunger for cheap labor is a problem precisely because it's been bad for innovation. Both our working people, our populists, and our innovators gathered here today have the same enemy. And the solution, I believe, is American innovation.
That's right. American innovation. And we have to create an environment where that can occur rather than putting the governmental boot on everybody's neck saying you have to do things our way, which are always less efficient and more burdensome. Allow the American people to innovate and explore productivity and industry free of interference, and we'll be better for it. So